Alright, this is absolutely the worst time of day to film, as you can tell by the current lighting situation that we're dealing with. I also, it was really difficult to, I don't know how I look in the camera right now because the light is so distracting. It's fine, listen, we're gonna do this anyway, okay? I don't know how much you can see. Um, it's weird visual effects, optical illusions day, I guess. So, um, yeah. I am exhausted and I shouldn't be filming because I spent, the entire day I spent out of the house. I did every errand imaginable and then drove like 2 hours to a fucking doctor's appointment. Because my psychiatrist has been like, okay, um, my psychiatrist just wanted me to get my Adderall from the sleep doctor that diagnosed me with narcolepsy. Because technically, I take Adderall for multiple reasons. I have been diagnosed with ADHD, although my current psychiatrist doesn't believe that for some reason because somebody didn't do their paperwork. I was literally being treated for it for years with Adderall with my other psychiatrist, and they never, I guess, decided to document the fact that I am neurodivergent in any way. So that's fun. Um, so, so I had to see this sleep doctor and be like, "Hey, my psychiatrist is not happy about me taking Adderall. It's taken for like ADHD, narcolepsy, and then like it's also has been the only thing that has been useful to treat my depression. I've tried many SSRIs, other medications. Fuck off! Noise pop up shit. I keep forgetting to turn the sound down on my laptop. Um, um, but also for like, depression, where it's like, it can be used for treatment resistant depression in some cases. Especially if it's severe depression that's been going on for a long time. Fuck off, computer. Jesus. Um, um, so, so I saw that doctor today, and thank God, she's like, yeah, of course you can have your Adderall. Why did your psychiatrist take it away from you? Of course you can't function without it. You're narcoleptic. um, I've been diagnosed with narcolepsy without cataplexy because um, people a lot of times when you think of narcolepsy that you think of the like joke or whatever that is just like you're sitting here and then you fall asleep, like collapse and fall asleep. That's cataplexy. Cataplexy is the part of narcolepsy that where basically you just suddenly go limp. And it happens to varying degrees. It's not always like a person's like standing upright and then they fall down. It's different, right? I don't know too much about it. I just know that when I was diagnosed, it was narcolepsy without the cataplexy. But what makes me narcoleptic is that when you're narcoleptic, you kind of skip NREM sleep. When you sleep, you go into NREM, and then you go into REM. REM is like the dream sleep. NREM is the like body sleep. Like this is overly simplified, and also what I was taught when I was a teenager. So I could also be misremembering some of this stuff, but I'm pretty sure this is like a very simplified version of how it works. Which is usually what I try to go for, is the version that is most easily understood, is what I'm trying for. Um, so, when you have narcolepsy, you basically spend most of your sleep in REM sleep. You spend most of your sleep having dreams, vivid dreams, and you have like sleep paralysis issues because like you might like basically it's like you have disturbed sleep, right? And so the way they test for narcolepsy is you have a sleep study where you sleep during the night, and then you stay and you take 4 15-minute naps, and they monitor those short naps into the daytime. What they're testing is in those 15 minutes you should not hit REM sleep at all. The normal human sleeping brain does not go into REM within 15 minutes. And if you do go into REM, that's a sign that something's wrong. That you're kind of skipping the NREM stage, not fully skipping, because you do cycle through those stages through the night. You go back into NREM and then into REM, and so, but that's why you're tired all the time. This is how it was explained to me, is that the reason you're tired all the time with narcolepsy is that your sleep does not have the quality that that you need from it, right? The reason it's divided is NREM sleep is resting your body, REM is resting your mind. Again, oversimplified, but that's the basic idea. And so when you don't get enough NREM, your body doesn't have as much time to sleep and repair and all that stuff. So that's why you sleep more, you're tired all the time. So, and you can have it without the cataplexy part that you're just like tipping over during the day, which is what I have. So, you know, so yeah, she was like, "Why is your psychiatrist taking away your Adderall?" And I'm like, "Listen, you don't want to know about the years that have happened recently." So, but that was good. I also sleep with a CPAP because I also have sleep apnea, so she's gonna increase the pressure on that, which that's cool. I feel like that needed to happen. So hopefully that will help me get a little bit better sleep. She was like, so there was a time, funny enough, right before I hit my head and got a concussion. Did I ever tell the story of hitting my head and getting a concussion? I think I did at some point. I think I told that story. But that happened in 2023. I hit my head and got a really bad concussion from a really minor hit, from laughing at a joke that my sister told about a bread maker. Anyway, so, yeah, I think that was around the time I had been originally. She had me on both Adderall and modafinil, which, if you don't know what modafinil is, it is another stimulant. It is a pretty powerful stimulant. I don't know how true this is, but I have heard that it's something that used to be used during a war of a type. One of the wars that happened that people know about, because I'm great with time and dates. That it was used to like keep people awake for missions and stuff. That is what I have heard. So, you know, it's a pretty powerful stimulant, and I used to be taking a high dose of that and Adderall. And I do, you know, it's one of those things. My health has been such a fucking mystery for my whole fucking life. I feel like I have a lot to say about the medical system, and a lot of it is not kind. So, yeah. There is a part of me that wonders if taking both of those things was probably not the right thing. And then this time when she saw me again, she's like, you know, you're still pretty tired all the time. I'm like, yeah, I have fibromyalgia. I have narcolepsy. I'm severely depressed. I have trauma, which makes you tired. Funny enough, having flashbacks constantly does make you sleepy because it's exhausting, right? And also I just have anxiety as well. So it's like, I'm like, you know, I'll just stick with the Adderall, because like honestly, between the two, trying modafinil and trying Adderall helps a lot more. I didn't really get much benefit off of modafinil. I feel like, you know, I don't know. I don't really like it. It kind of just made me feel. See, with Adderall, I feel like it helps me actually calm down. Like, I feel calmer when I can take Adderall. It does the inverse of what it, you know, a lot of people, it's like, one of the side effects that people worry about, or that doctors worry about, is heightening your anxiety. and it does the opposite for me. It kind of calms me down, helps me feel kind of more regulated, and like I can manage what's going on up in my head. It makes me feel like, all right, I can handle what's happening. Like I can handle my emotions. Like it helps me regulate my emotions better. Like it's easier to come down from some kind of intensity, like anxiety or something. It's easier for me to come down if I've taken my Adderall that day than if I haven't. And if I haven't, sometimes that meltdown doesn't go so well. So there's that. So whereas with modafinil, like taking it, because there would be times where sometimes I wouldn't take my Adderall and I'd take my modafinil just to like see, like compare the two, I guess. Back when I was taking it again years ago. And modafinil just like, it felt like that one it felt like I am taking a stimulant, right? Like it felt like this is what a stimulant feels like. Like Adderall's a stimulant too, but whereas Adderall makes me feel like I can handle things. It makes me feel like I have the capacity to deal with things, to deal with the emotions in my head, to handle what life is throwing at me. Modafinil just kind of was like, you're on. Not in an in-depth, not in a deep way where, or not in a way that has any depth or is like helps your brain function. It's just you are taking a stimulant. That's how it felt to me. So I was like, nah, I don't think I need modafinil. I think Adderall's fine. So that's good. Because I've been extremely stressed out by my psychiatrist, just like, because the reason this last time that my psychiatrist was like, I'm going to stop your Adderall, was because I went to the psych ward and they didn't have enough beds and they put me on the addiction unit, which is like, they told me it was because they didn't have enough beds, and sometimes you do get shunted to other units if there's not enough beds in one. So it was one of those things where it's like, I think it's just a baseline if you go into the addiction unit that they're going to take you off of substances, or what's considered a controlled substance, because in theory you're on that unit because you're having a problem abusing a substance. Even that, it's like, I question that. Like, okay, so you're going to take someone's like Adderall that doesn't work. Like, let's say it's somebody who's struggling with alcohol, a completely different type of drug from something like Adderall. It affects your body differently, your brain differently, and yeah, you probably shouldn't be doing the two together. Ideally, it's probably not great. But also, like, making the blanket decision to just take someone off of a medication because they're struggling with something else doesn't seem like the right call. I don't know. I'm not a doctor, but also sometimes we are not treated humanely, especially if you are crazy. Funny enough, the doctor I went to, while I think just today, while she has her faults, I will say she has never treated me like I don't know what I'm talking about when I talk about my symptoms and my experience. I said I'm really fucking tired, and she said, oh, okay, what can we do about that? And I was kind of like, well, I don't really want to add another medication right now. I didn't say this to her, but it was because I've started. She knows I've started testosterone, but it's like, I've started testosterone, and I want to see how that affects my ability to cope, ability to deal with life, energy levels, because it is hell trying to be a person that you're not, right? Trying to exist as someone that you aren't. I think everybody can say that would be hell, right? And when you're trans, it's just that the issue is gender. I think there are a lot of types of people who are forced to be someone they're not. And I think all of them would agree that if there was a way out of that, they would take it. Maybe that's overreaching to say that, but I don't know. I don't know a person who feels more comfortable filling a box that they were never meant to fill, right? So So there's that. But you know, I think my dysphoria has affected me a lot, you know. And it's dumb because I'm like I hate my brain. I've said this. I don't like how my brain works. I am very anxious constantly about everything. I don't trust myself. To be perfectly fucking frank, I don't fucking trust myself. I don't trust myself as far as I can throw myself, and I'm 400 fucking pounds, so I can't throw myself very fucking far at all. So I tend to not trust my decisions. I tend to not trust my feelings, my emotions. Which there's a fine line between that being dangerous and also I am a person who has mental illness and emotional regulation issues. So, you know, I recognize sometimes my emotions do not fit the situation, right? There are times when I have a response to something that is not entirely correct or accurate to what's going on, and that happens. I just wanted to cry just now. I don't know why. I don't know. Yesterday I took my second dose of testosterone, and it felt really good. And also, I'm scared about a lot of it. I'm scared. I still haven't watched the past like 3 videos I recorded. I've got to do that at some point. I've just uploaded them without looking. Not great, but that's where we are right now. But I started testosterone, and I'm excited about a lot of it. You know, I know it takes a while to actually like affect you, but like, I don't know. I feel like today I feel a type of peace about it, which is weird to say because I don't feel peaceful right now. When I say I feel a type of peace about it, I feel a fractional amount of peace. Like, the thing is that transitioning is going to involve loss. It's going to. I will lose my singing voice that I have loved and been very proud of for my entire life. I will lose my range. It will sound different. And I don't know how to feel about that. If I have any vanity, it's definitely about my voice. Maybe I have more vanity than I think I do. I don't know. My voice is like the only part of me that I started to like. When I first started making videos in 2023, the first thing I thought was, I like my voice. I really like the sound of my voice. I really like the sound of my voice. And that was the first positive thing I ever thought about my body ever, that I can remember. First fully positive thing, I guess. And taking testosterone will change my voice. I won't sound the same. And I'm afraid I won't like how I sound. And my voice is very, very fucking important to me. My voice is very fucking important to me. My voice is very important to me. And that statement has far more meaning than you understand. My voice is very important to me. Also, you know, I still have certain dysphoria around it. It's complicated, right? It's complicated. I know, you know, it'll change. It'll change. It will sound different. And it will never be able to go back to what it was. I've probably sung the last songs in that voice that I could. Like, one of the things I've been sad about is that
I never got a really good microphone to do some really nice recordings of some songs I like. That's something I wanted to do, was record certain songs with a really good microphone. And then sing, again after my voice had transitioned. And I never got to do that. I never got a good enough mic. And haven't been able to just sit down and make those recordings. Which is... I don't know why I'm crying so much about this. Jesus Christ, what the fuck? Take Me to Church by Hozier was the song that made me, like, brave enough to try different pronouns. Because when I listen to certain music sung by men, it feels like my voice. Only certain music, only certain artists. I'm very, very picky about what I listen to because I need it to be my voice. I need it to sound like me. It's hard to explain. This is one of those videos where I have concepts that I need to talk about, but it's really difficult to explain them in a way that you can understand, because there's a lot of history behind it and there's a lot of aspects that go into why I feel that way, and I can't share them all in one video. So you're just gonna have to kind of go with me on this. But a lot of Hozier's music felt like my voice at that time. And there are select other bands, very few, a handful, where their music has felt like my voice at different stages and points in my life. All men. So, not that I only listen to men, whatever. You know what I mean? The artists that have been the most important have been men. Because I've felt like I needed my voice to be masculine. A masculine voice has been what I wanted. And when I listened to, I was listening to Take Me to Church on loop in like 2022 or something. It was the first time I'd heard that song. I was just listening to Take Me to Church for hours, days on loop. And at some point, I was just like, I want to be a man. And that wasn't the first time I'd had that thought, but it was the first time that I took it seriously. And that's when I first started. I changed my name to something more androgynous because I wasn't sure if I was gender fluid or not. I wasn't sure if I want to be a man was like, want to be a man, and then sometimes I want to be a woman. It was what made me brave enough to try pronouns, because I had been too scared for so long, or not really taking that thought seriously, And then, I eventually found out that he, him pronouns are the only pronouns that feel good, and it feels great when someone calls me by my name, my real name, not my dead one, and someone uses he, him pronouns. And, and I do hear about some trans people who they, sometimes they're unsure about transitioning and then they start going on hormones and then they're like, oh my God, why did I wait? I wish I'd done this sooner. Like, why was I was so apprehensive I almost didn't do this. And then, or they're worried about the same things I'm worried about, and then they do it, and then they're like, oh, I actually like this better. And I know that's definitely a possibility for me. And I hope it's what happens, because right now it there are things I wanted to record while I still had a feminine sounding voice, just to have it. And it would be pretty rapid if my voice was already changing, so I don't know if it's just that I've been overusing my voice recently, but I feel like I'm not able to hit certain notes right now. It's probably just from overuse, not the testosterone itself. But it reminded me of the fact that that is what's going to happen, and that's not something that can ever go back. And I feel a lot of shame that this is the thought process I'm having, and it like makes me wonder. I'm like, what if I'm not trans? What if there's something else going on? What if? But also, I've spent my entire life like, what's wrong with me? What's wrong with me? What's wrong with me? Why do I feel this way? Why do I feel bad? Why am I doing this? Why why this? Why that? And I'm never satisfied with any of the answers I'm given. That's why I keep going fucking back to doctors again and again and again, because I'm like, something's wrong with me. I'm in pain. Something's wrong. Something's wrong. Something's wrong. I'm in pain. I'm in pain. I'm in pain. I want to die. I've wanted to die ever since I was young. And I don't know what the problem is. You know, I keep going to doctors because I'm like, and therapists and stuff, because it's like, I don't know what the problem is, you know. And, you know, we've come up with several possibilities for the problem. Some I've come up with on my own. Some doctors have said, you know. Some have been dead ends. Some have been, you know, I don't know. I've just been obsessively going to doctors and trying to, you know, and self-searching, trying to figure out what is wrong with me, what is wrong with me, what is wrong with me, what's wrong with me. That's been my biggest question my whole fucking life is what's wrong with me, what's wrong with me, what is wrong with me. And because it's been a question my whole life, because it's something I have obsessed over to the point that I have obsessed over it, it makes me question myself. I don't even believe myself. I gaslight myself out of the answers, which is deeply infuriating. You know, I'm trying so hard to think. I'm trying so hard to find out what's going on with me, what's wrong, you know, I've probably reached the answer several times, and then I go past it because I don't trust myself. There was a point in time where I was like, the only thing I know for sure about myself is that I'm a man. The only thing I know for sure about myself is that I'm a trans man. That's the only thing that I know for sure that makes sense to me. And now I've done it like I've done with everything else, where it's not that I don't think I'm trans, but it's that, what if I'm wrong? What if I'm wrong? What if this is something else? What if it's something else? What if I'm treating the wrong problem? What if I'm just putting a Band-Aid on a deeper problem? And the problem is that I have a lot of things wrong. I have a lot of things wrong. There are a lot of things working together to make me miserable. There's a lot of things at play in my life that are making me, deeply unhappy. I am scared of losing my voice. I am sad about the fact that I did likely record the last, you know, songs I will be able to record with the range I used to have. I have a feeling testosterone is going to affect me very quickly. Which in some ways I am excited about, you know. I was just thinking about how today I've felt, I don't know, I've felt some kind of assurance in my body, that, you know, isn't always there. When I say I feel a peace about it, it's, you know, while I'm really sad about losing my voice and there's grief in that, I did also, you know, I had a period of time today where I was trying to sing and I couldn't reach the notes, and I was just thinking, okay, you know, I would rather have the body I want and lose my voice. I would rather look like a man and feel like a man and feel secure in my body than keep a voice that doesn't even really fit. Not really. You know, I like it. I don't know why I like it. I like being able to sing. And it sometimes doesn't feel like my voice, but it's complicated. It is my voice, but I don't know. I am trans. I am transgender. If I wasn't trans, my dead name wouldn't hurt. She, her wouldn't hurt, you know? It wouldn't feel good to be called by he, him pronouns. You know? I am a man. That is my identity. And testosterone is meant to help my body align with my identity. That is what testosterone is for. It is to help me align my body with my identity. I also just, you know, I don't trust myself. My brain is a horrible place to be. My brain is a horrible fucking place to be. I'm miserable all the time. I'm stuck in horrible thought patterns that hurt. I have belief systems that aren't helping me. And I really hope that transitioning isn't the wrong answer. That's something I'm deeply afraid of. But I'm also... I hate mistakes. I'm terrified of mistakes. I'm terrified of mistakes. I'm terrified of assuming the wrong thing or thinking the wrong thing about myself and my life and my identity. I'm terrified of choosing a path that ends with me falling off the edge, you know? You know, I have been suicidal my entire fucking life. Ever since I can remember, I've been obsessed with the idea of ending my life. It's really tough because I can't trust my own brain. I can't trust my brain. I can't. But I also can't. There's a lot of people I can't trust right now, in certain ways, you know. I cannot trust my parents to help me understand myself and my trans identity because they believe it's a sin, you know. So they won't be able to give a rational, reasonable evaluation. And I mean, that's the thing is you can only decide what to do with your body yourself, you know. It's the same thing me and my exes, you know, taught the kids. It's like, you know, your body, your rules, you know. Unless it's a matter of health or safety. I'm conflicted. Because as a person, it is easy to want something that isn't good for you, right? That's human nature, to want things that aren't good for you. You know, to want things that don't belong to you. And I'm so afraid that somehow this is the wrong choice. And it's not because, while I'm taking the shot, that's not what I feel at all. I've never been so excited to put a needle in my body. You know, the 2 times I've taken my dose, I've been so excited. So fucking excited. And I can't wait till next week till I can do it again. I'm just, you know, I don't even feel the needle going in. It's like, you know, giving myself those shots felt like, what did it feel like? It felt like autonomy. It felt like agency. It felt like me making a decision about my body and myself that was for me. It felt like choosing choosing to pursue a body that for once I could be happy with, because I've hated my body ever since I was little. I've hated my body my entire fucking life. I've always hated my body. And the problem is there are many things that can happen to a person that can make them hate themselves and hate their body. You know. And I'm just afraid, because I do have so many layers of struggle. You know, I do have many different things at play, you know, and interplaying with each other. And, you know, I forget what the word is. It's intersectionality is kind of the word, but that's a little more in a societal way. But we'll go with intersectionality for now, because I think usually that word is used in a more larger scale conversation about more than one person is usually how that word's used, but I'm going to use it now for me. You know, there's a lot of intersectionality in my identity that all feeds off each other and plays off of each other, right? You know, I am trans. This is the thing, whether or not my questioning for myself is whether I should is whether testosterone is the answer for me or not. Not whether I'm trans. I know I'm trans. I know I'm a man. I feel best identifying as David, with he, him pronouns. Like, that is how I feel best. But, you know, I don't know. Anyway, so it's like being trans, being queer in general, bisexual, you know, being disabled, being neurodivergent, definitely ADHD, likely autistic as well. And I think autistic to a level of higher need than anyone in my life was able to recognize earlier on. You know, severely depressed, severely traumatized in many ways. I think I technically hit almost every minority status except for I'm white. That is like the one privilege I have is I'm white, which is a little funny. It's funny that it's like I do hit so many of those boxes of just man, the world is not built for me at all. I'm not made to fit in the world I occupy. The thing is that those things can play into each other, you know. There are multiple reasons for me to hate my body. And, like, frankly, even just due to misogyny, like, women are taught to hate their bodies. I'm not a woman, but even you know, women are just taught by society to hate their bodies, you know. And I do think what's going on with me is more than just that. But what I'm saying is, you know, these are the things at play, right? There are many reasons why I could hate my body. There are many reasons why I do hate my body. And I just, you know, I'm so afraid that for some reason I've been wrong, that I'm not trans, even though, you know, even though it's like I can't watch a lot of my earlier videos because I look and speak less masculinely, in my opinion. And that's the reason I can't watch them, is because I feel like I don't look like me and I don't talk like me. So that was gross. That's what you get when you come to my videos, I guess. Just disgusting. Anyway. I don't know. I'm excited about transitioning. I'm really excited about it, and I'm scared because every single type of growth involves loss, right? All growth involves loss. You cannot grow without losing your old self. You just can't. You cannot grow without loss. But I've lost so much. I've lost so much over the past several years. My whole life has been littered with loss, but, especially since 2020, it feels like it's ramped up a lot. Just fucking yesterday, literally yesterday, a family member, a somewhat semi-distant, but a family member that, was killed in an accident. And it's like, my grandma currently has a benign brain tumor, which, man, if there isn't a more oxymoronic statement than that. I don't know. The world has been fucking terrifying for a long fucking time. And I'm so afraid of loss. I've lost so much. And the thing is that, the losses of things like my voice, that's not the only loss with transitioning. My dad is the one who drove me to my appointment today. And in the car on the way home, I told him, because he and my mom don't know or didn't know. They knew I identified as David, but they didn't know I started taking testosterone yet. And today on the ride home, I told my dad, I said, hey, I just want you to know, I decided to start testosterone. And his response was to shrug and say, okay, your choice. He's like, I know I can't do anything to stop you. And you're living on your own. It's your choice. And he does not want to be around when I tell my mother. And I don't know when I'm going to tell her. Because that will go worse. It will go worse. It will go worse. They're afraid of me becoming violently angry on testosterone. I don't know. I'm afraid. This is going to be difficult to talk about because what I'm about to say does come from internalized transphobia. It does. I have that. I have a lot of that. I have a lot of internalized queer phobia because I grew up being taught again and again and again and again that being queer is wrong. And you do not unlearn that stuff overnight. You don't. You don't unlearn that overnight. Even as a queer man myself, I don't unlearn that overnight, okay? So I want to preface that what I'm about to say, the things I'm about to say, do come from internalized queerphobia and transphobia. And I think it's important to mention them in my own struggle with this. So, right now we're talking to the human David, who does have thoughts and beliefs that aren't correct sometimes, and who is wrong more than I'd like to. I've always felt disgusting. I've always felt like my body's disgusting. I've felt like a foul carcass, a horrible carcass of maggot meat. That's what I felt like. And I'm afraid that the changes from testosterone will make me look even more disgusting. Because I can't know how I'm going to look. I can't know how it's going to change my body. And I don't even know what I want to look like. You know, I mean, I see examples of, you know, men that I want to emulate in appearance, but none that look how I could look. I don't know how to say this. You know, I don't see people that look like me a lot. Which is why I'm such a big proponent of representation. Because I don't know what I'm gonna look like, and some of that is just, you know, how it is, and then some of it is, you know, there isn't anyone like me that I can look to be like, you know, that's how I'm gonna look, or that might be kind of how I look, and yeah, I'm okay with that. You know, I used to think, I'm like, yeah, I want a beard, and now, and you know, and now I'm like, I'm not sure. You know, I don't know. You know, I used to be so excited about certain aspects, like getting chest hair or body hair. Like I said, a beard. You know, excited about a deeper voice. Excited about my face looking a little less feminine. And I mean, you know, I'm not going to be... I'm trying to figure out what words to use, because angular is not the right word. I'm never going to be angular, okay? I'm fucking 400 pounds. I'm not going to be fucking angular at all. That's not going to happen. Which that is something that upsets me. That was like the only other part of my body that I used to like, is I do build muscle very easily. I always have built muscle very easily. And so when I was more athletic, I had, my arms were fairly defined for someone who didn't like directly like work out to build muscle, but you know, I did sports and stuff and dance. So I had some muscle tone. And I actually did really like my forearms and my arms, because I was more muscular than other girls my age. I used to have that fucking little, like, I don't know if it's like the edge of a tendon, like here, like that corner that all the boys had, and I used to have that, and I was like really excited about it. That's really stupid, but I'm not gonna have that anymore. There's nothing of that I have. Although I don't know if you can see in the light. Sometimes I do have, I don't know, whatever. Listen, I'm weird and stupid. I hate myself. That's embarrassing. What was I saying? You know, I was excited about all those changes at one point. And I don't know if now it's just, I'm just anxious because I'm me and I hate change of all types. Which is very likely to be that. That is very likely to be the problem. Honestly. But it's also like, I don't know. I'm somehow afraid that testosterone is just gonna make me hate myself more. That it's gonna make me look uglier. That I'm gonna look disgusting, more so than I do now. I am afraid of losing my hair. I'm afraid of how it will change my face. I'm afraid of how it's gonna change the fat in my body, because I know it does that. I'm afraid of where it might sit and how it might look. I have complicated feelings about my chest. On one hand, I want it to be flat. On the other hand, On the other hand, even a cis man at my size wouldn't have a flat chest. So, I don't know. Would you fucking shut the fuck up, you goddamn phone? Who the fuck is texting me? No! My mom wants to call me. Not right now, mother, please. I can't talk right now. I'll call her after, obviously, but I'm filming something, mother. I don't want my life to be categorized by grief. Or not that, defined by grief is what I meant. I don't want my life to be defined by grief. Even though to some level it always will be. There's a lot of grief in my life. There's grief over, the person I could have become if I transitioned earlier. Grief of who I could have been if I had had parents who understood me and were able to provide what I needed growing up. There's grief over how my body's been treated by people. There's grief over what I've lost from repeated traumas, repeated abuses, what I've lost from medical malpractice. What I've taken from myself in my self-hatred over and over again. And that's the thing, that's why I don't trust myself, because I have a horrible, horrible problem where some part of my brain wants to watch me suffer. Some part of my brain wants to watch me lose everything because I want to punish myself. I want to punish myself for every wrong thing I've ever done. I want to punish myself for who I am. I want to punish myself for who I've become because I know I could have done better. I know I could have done better. I could have done better even with this fucking channel. I know I could have done better. I know I could have done better in so many ways. I am capable of more than I do. And I want to punish myself for not being as capable of myself as... not as capable as I want. I don't know. I don't fucking know, man. You know what I meant. I hate myself so much. I hate myself so much. And I don't want to hate myself. I don't want to. I don't want to. I don't want to. I want to be proud of myself. I want to look at myself and be glad that I'm here. I want to, I want to reach a point where I don't look in the mirror and wish I could hurt the person I see on the other side. I don't know how to do it. And the thing is, I find ways to hurt myself creatively, right? I will deny myself things that are good for me or things that I want. And then sometimes I will, do the opposite, but to an excessive degree that hurts me the same way. You know what I mean? I don't know. Fuck. Jesus Christ. I don't want to hate myself. And I do. And it's not that it's like, oh, testosterone will make you not hate yourself. No, that's not what that does. That is not what testosterone does. I don't think that is what that does. But dysphoria, gender dysphoria, is a real thing, right? It is a real diagnosis that causes the symptoms that I am having, right? So it's not about like testosterone will make me love myself. That's not how that works. But testosterone, in theory, will align my body with what my brain is expecting to see when I look in the mirror, and that's, in theory, that's what's going to happen, according to people who are much smarter than me. So I should listen to the people who are much smarter than me, right? That's usually the thing to do. I don't know. I'm just scared. I already hate myself so much, and, testosterone is a permanent change. It is a permanent change. And I mean, on one hand, I can't imagine changing from the body I have and ever wanting to go back to this body. But also, I'm sure if I turned into fucking looking more like Jabba the Hutt than I already do, yeah, I'd probably want to come back to this. So, I hope that's not the decision I'm making, right? And again, this is all internalized transphobia, right? The very fact that I am conceptualizing testosterone as having the capacity to make me look disgusting is internalized transphobia. It just is. So there's no but to that statement. It just is. It's just transphobia, and I recognize that. Also, these are still thoughts that I'm having. So, I don't know. I don't know what's happening. I don't know what's going on. I'm afraid. I hate myself so much. And what I was saying is, I get creative sometimes when I'm trying to harm myself or destroy myself. It does seem like something my brain would do to say, to stop me from taking testosterone. Because it's something I want. And it's a change that I want. And it is very like me to take away things I want before I can have them. I said this in another video, but if I let myself, I will destroy every good thing before it has a chance to enter my life. And that is terrifying. It's very fucking terrifying. It's terrifying also because I can't always recognize when it's self-destructive behavior versus trying to get better and grow. And that sounds like it should be obvious, and sometimes it is obvious. Like, if I'm cutting myself, obviously that is just straight up, that is blatant destruction, right? Blatant self-destruction. But I mean, we all do this a little bit to some extent, right? Where it's like if you're depressed, one of the things you should do for depression is rest. You need rest. That's not always the answer, but like burnout, let's say, you need rest. Burnout and depression, I feel like, are very similar. And then so you're like, okay, I'm resting. I'm canceling some plans, and I'm resting. And it's so easy for that to turn into isolation, which is a destructive habit, right? Where suddenly you're not seeing anyone, you're not talking to anyone. You're not going out, you're not doing things. So it's stuff like that it's easy to be like, am I actually helping? Am I resting or am I isolating, right? It's really, stuff like that is really difficult for me to determine, because I also struggle with trying to control myself too much or trying to control my life too much, where I try to control every single tiny thing that I can, And so sometimes being kind to myself means letting go of that control a little bit. So, there's certain things where it's like, yeah, I want to be eating a little bit better than I am right now. I don't want to get obsessive about it, because I feel like that would negatively impact me if I started like counting calories and stuff. But I would like to eat so that I am giving myself more energy than just, food that maybe doesn't do that, right? Because I do have inflammatory issues. I do have, you know, issues that sometimes diet change can help with that. Also, I do notice that if I am too restrictive about how I eat and I am too trying to control it, it actually has more of a negative effect on my emotions and mental health. So this is like that is why fucking recovery is so fucking difficult. It is so fucking difficult because I do not know when to be hard on myself and when to be easy on myself. Because sometimes I need more discipline than I am exhibiting, right? So, sometimes I am letting my habits get a little out of control. Sometimes I am negatively engaging with things. And I need to have a little more discipline with what I'm trying to do. Also, sometimes, like I said, I'm way too over controlling about things, and I'm trying so hard to make myself be a person that I'm not or fit a lifestyle that I can't, that it has a negative effect on my emotional and mental health. So that's the tricky line, right? That is the really tricky line that I'm trying to walk right now, and it's very difficult for me. It's very fucking difficult. To some extent, I need to let myself go a little bit. I need to just fucking, like, I have had my entire life from when I was very young, has been about controlling my behavior, controlling my existence. I lived in a very controlling household. I have ADHD. I have autism, I think it's safe to say. I struggle with impulse, impulse control. Always have. And it's something that I've always hated and always tried to control. I remember as a kid, my parents always were like, what are the fruits of the spirit? Self-control. Like, they said all of them, but they would be like, self-control. You need to learn self-control. You need to learn self-control. You need to learn self-control. I'm like, I'm 5. I barely fucking know what the fuck self-control even means. I don't have good self-control at all. I try so hard. I have terrible self-control. So, I don't know. But that's the thing, right? Is like, because, first it was, school and parents who were like, you're too impulsive, you're disrupting the class by talking too much, being out of your seat, so we need to control that behavior. And then I'd go home and I would make some kind of mistake. It's like, we need to control that behavior. And then eventually I started having medical issues, and the first thing, I started getting migraines in elementary school. And so we tried to control that because I was having such bad migraines, I was like throwing up. I was getting real sick from the migraines. They were terrible, terrible fucking migraines. And so we started doing things like, first we tried removing chocolate from my diet. Then we just removed sugar wholesale for a couple years. I couldn't have any sugar. I think it was like 3rd and 4th grade that happened. So, and then, at around age 13, I think, I went to see Avatar in theaters, which is my favorite. The Blue Alien Avatar. That is my fucking... That's my favorite movie of all time, which is kind of... I know a lot of people think it's a shitty movie, and I can't fucking argue that much, but I really like it. It's literally my favorite movie of all time. The Blue Alien movie. I really love that movie a lot. So, but I watched that movie in theaters with my dad, and ate like a huge fucking bowl of popcorn, and the very next day went into the hospital for bowel issues, and was diagnosed with ulcerative colitis after being in the hospital for 3 days. And then with that, it was like, all right, we've got to, you have to control what you're eating more. You can't eat these things. You can't eat all these cool things that you like to eat. Especially while we're trying to figure out how to get you out of the flare-up and into remission. And through all this time, I'm taking pills. I actually couldn't swallow pills very young, so I had to take powdered form or liquid form of everything that we could get our hands on. I started taking Excedrin from a very young age for my migraines. And I don't know if you've ever had fucking powdered Excedrin. There is nothing in the world that tastes more disgusting than pouring powdered Excedrin directly onto your tongue and trying to swallow it. Which is what I did the first time and immediately melted down crying. I think I mentioned that in another video, but I don't remember which one. So, and even my fucking, ulcerative colitis med, it had to be, I think it was 4 pills in the morning and 4 pills at night, I believe. And we had to get capsules and open it into applesauce. And there were these little tiny beads inside, So that was fun. At least it didn't taste bad because it was just tiny beads. So, and I was put on metformin at one point because I had PCOS. Around 14, my gynecologist started putting me on hormone things, putting me on spironolactone to decrease my testosterone. Metformin because you are inherently, by having PCOS, you are prone to diabetes, so you're pre-diabetic by the diagnosis rather than by what your actual blood sugar is doing, than what your pancreas is doing. So I was taking metformin around 14, and spironolactone and progesterone, all that stuff. I was taking a lot of other meds too, because I was taking the ulcerative colitis med. And at some point I was taking Zoloft. And that was after we tried a bunch of other meds. A bunch of other mood stabilizers and stuff. So I was taking a lot of meds for a lot of my life. And again, it's like, you have to take your meds with enough food. You have to take it at this time of day. You have to do this. You have to do that. For some reason, Zoloft, I am very sensitive to side effects of medications for some reason, and with Zoloft, I had this weird thing where Zoloft says, be careful in direct sunlight, basically, because for some reason it alters how your body takes in sun. And so what would happen is I wouldn't get sunburned. Well, I would get sunburned, but what would happen is if I was out in the sun too long, all the capillaries would burst under my skin, and I'd have these tiny red dots all over my skin. From too much sunlight, so that was weird. So I had to stay out of the sun. So it was and of course I'm also just very hard on myself. I was always trying to control my own behavior. I've talked in other videos about how I started self-harming at a very young age. Used to beat myself with a belt as a kid, and then graduated to other forms of self-harm to try and control my behavior, because I was very impulsive, and I would always do things that I didn't want to do, and I'd be like, why did I do the thing? Why did I do the thing? I know the thing is bad. Why did I do the thing? And I always did the thing. My life has been just, the people in my life, as well as myself, have been trying to control every aspect of my existence for so long. And I think it's taken a toll on me, honestly. I think I'm... I think I am starting to kind of have negative psychological responses to that type of control. And I have a desperate need for the agency I can find. Unfortunately, I'm also severely disabled. And I said this in another video. I do feel like your agency becomes more limited the more disabled you are. Agency tends to be removed the more disabled you are. Just by the trade-off of getting help. And also, sometimes I don't know how to use my own agency, to be frank. I haven't had it for so long, you know. I don't know what to do. I don't know what decisions to make. And it's very fucking frustrating to be in this in-between space where I don't know what to do with myself. I don't know if I need more structure or less structure. I don't know if I need, you know, more flexibility or less flexibility. There are arguments for both. And that's the thing about life is in the end you do just have to make your own decisions and you have to live life the way that you can. And I think that's what scares me the most, is that there is no fucking right answer, right? Just with life, there's no right answer. There's no right answer, and that is supposed to be freeing, right? That's supposed to be liberating, that there's no right answer. Because if there's no right answer, you can do whatever the fuck you want, right? And so why doesn't it feel liberating? Why does it feel so scary that you can just do whatever you want? I feel like I will misuse that freedom. You know? Because also, you can do whatever you want means you can, by your own choice, choose to ruin your life. You can choose to make a decision that ruins your life. And I never know when I'm making one of those decisions because I've made that decision so many times. I've made so many decisions where if I'd made a different decision, my life would be totally different now. I would be someone else somewhere else. And I can't say whether it would be better or worse. I can't say that. Because I can't know. For all I know, this is the best possible path I could have taken in my life. I don't know. I can't know. I can't know because I don't know the other options. I don't know if I had been able to finish college, if I would have even been able to get the job I wanted, or if the job I was going for would have been fulfilling for me. You know, I could have also finished college and crashed, or I could have gotten the job I wanted and crashed. You know, maybe I would have gone longer without knowing I was trans. Maybe I would have gone longer without knowing I was queer. And that's something I hate to think about. I love my queerness. I love my queer identity. I do. It feels like the first part of myself that I knew wasn't programmed into me because, let's be honest, my parents wouldn't have put that fucking code in if they could have avoided it. I love being queer. I love being trans. I love being able to explore masculinity and trying to relate to other men and, you know, figuring out how our experiences are similar. I love how validating it feels to look at other men that I admire and see some of myself. I see more of myself in the men I admire than the women I admire. I see more things that I want to see in myself in men than in women. And that is a blanket statement regarding gender. That's not that, you know, there are women I look up to that I do admire a lot of their qualities and hope I can grow to be a man who could exhibit those qualities. But there is something extremely validating about the men that I care about and the men that I try to emulate. And being able to see them and see how they've grown. And, see myself in their growth. I love my masculinity. I love that my voice has gotten deeper over the course of this channel. I love how I speak, because I think I speak masculinely, especially now. I like seeing my body language, how it's changed to be something that I would define as more masculine. Definitely less feminine, in my opinion. Because again, gender is both real and not real, right? So, technically, your body language does not make you a man or woman. Simple external traits do not define your gender. And also, I have found that changing my mannerisms, changing how I speak, has eased my dysphoria even more than changing my clothes, frankly. Making videos like this and being able to watch back and see myself masculinely has been a gift. It really has been. And yet I'm still sitting here like, what if I'm not trans? What if I'm not trans? I don't know why I'm like this. I'd love for someone to tell me why I'm like this. That'd be great. My therapist has probably tried. Hasn't gone well. So, I don't know. And I love being bisexual. I think I love that my attraction is not restricted to gender. It's not restricted to one gender. I love that I can look at men, women, non-binary people, and the gender doesn't matter for how I feel about them, I love being queer because I know it's mine. I know it's mine. I know my queerness is mine. There's very few things about me that I know are mine. Because I've spent my life trying to meet standards that are impossible to meet and trying to become the most optimized version of myself. Which has been very frustrating that I came out like this, a very clearly not optimized human in any way, shape, or form. And also the term optimized human is kind of gross and disgusting and smells of eugenics, so I hate myself and I hate my brain. This is why I hate my brain, because my brain does this. It's like, you didn't optimize yourself correctly. I built myself wrong. That is a thought that commonly occurs in my head, is I built myself wrong. Because I really do feel like I am a person constructed of, we're all people constructed of our choices, but, I feel like, I don't know. I feel like I went about it maybe a little too intentionally, unfortunately. Because now I feel so much more divorced from my humanity. I have such a deep desire to be perfect. I can't be perfect. There's no such thing as a perfect person. And that is a good thing. Because I can't imagine how boring the perfect person would be if they were to exist. Fuck my legs. I hate that I push myself towards perfection and towards an idealized version of myself that can't exist. An optimized version of myself. I hate that. And also, I feel like if I don't do that, then I'm wasting what God has given me. I feel like I'm wasting the person God made me, because I know that in some ways I'm more capable than I should be in certain areas. I know I'm more... If I were to apply myself correctly, I know I would be capable of more than I am right now. And I know I could do more with my life than I'm going to be able to do. If I really fucking tried really hard, what if I could make an impact that could save people like me? What if I could make some kind of impact with my life and my choices and my time, that I could save people? Because I know there are people who I've never met who have made choices that saved my life. People that I care very deeply about. I would not be alive if certain humans that I've never ever met didn't make the choices that they made. I would not be alive right now. I wouldn't be. I am only alive. I'm only alive because there are people in this world who have built themselves out of compassion. Whether they realize it or not, they built themselves out of compassion. Some people are arguing outside. I don't know if the mic is picking that up. Hopefully not. And also, if I keep thinking about my life in those terms, that, how can I help the most people? Is there anyone else I can save? Is there anyone else if I worked harder, if I worked harder to build my channel in the correct way, could it reach a person who needed to see something I said or hear something I said? Or who just needed to be able to sit and talk with someone? Because to me, this feels like talking. And I hope my intention is that for you it feels like talking as well. That's why I don't edit, I want this to feel like a relationship. Because I think, I know that's what I've needed. I think the relationship between a viewer and a creator is a type of relationship. I do. I think the way we've spoken about it as a society has been a little more harmful than good, because we've really accentuated the fact that certain types of manifestations of this relationship are negative. And I agree. There is a type of relationship that you can develop with a person on the other side of the screen that is damaging and unhealthy and harmful. Like every other relationship in your life, there are manifestations of those relationships that can be unhealthy and hurtful and damaging, right? I think it's a lot about how you manage it, how you internalize it, how you understand the boundaries. Because there are boundaries with this, right? I do feel like, in a way, you and I are having a conversation. Also,
in theory, if you were to show up at my door and wanting to talk, that's, obviously a boundary crossing, right? And that's obviously not the scenario right now. I have literally 70 people watching. That's not what's happening. But what I'm saying is that is the type of manifestation that is damaging and harmful. But I don't think the issue is that you see it as a relationship. I think the issue is that you don't understand the boundaries when that is the choice you make. Because I think if you understand the boundaries here, if you can understand what the relationship is, you can understand the type of reciprocation that is involved. Because I believe this is a relationship because there is reciprocation, right? I'm speaking to you. I am giving this conversation to you. I am giving this video to you. And you are receiving it, or you are reciprocating with some kind of, a like or a comment or whatever, or subscription, or just by watching. That is a type of reciprocation, right? And, I'd like to think if you're a person who likes watching YouTube videos, which if you're here, I assume you like watching YouTube videos, or if you have other YouTubers you like to watch, have you felt impacted by their work? Have you felt impacted by their content, what they've made? Have you felt like it's affected your life in a positive way? Have you thought about the things they've said? Have you talked to your friends about your favorite creator and, felt like you have been let into their life a little bit just by knowing what's going on with them? I think it's a type of relationship. I think it is. I think it's diminishing to say it isn't a relationship at all. But it is a type of relationship that has a different type of reciprocation, right? Because I think what happens, where we get like the scary term parasocial, I think we get that term because there are people who will see this type of relationship between a creator and the viewer, and they will assume a type of reciprocation that is appropriate for real life friendships, or interpersonal friendships with people that aren't online, or like a different type of relationship, or a dating relationship, in the more extreme cases. So, but I think it's diminishing to say that this can't be an important relationship, right? This is important to me. Being able to talk to you is important to me. It has been important to me. So I don't think it's, I don't know. I said what I said. So this is very important to me. And I know that, there have been creators that have been very important to me and have taught me about myself, taught me about what I want from myself, about what I want from my choices and my decisions in life. Taught me about the kind of person I want to be. I tend to watch people that I believe are compassionate people, who I believe are driven towards growth. Who have, taken every opportunity they've been able to make themselves a person they can be proud of, right? They've prioritized their own journey with themselves, and they've made content that reflects their pride in their own journey, and their pride in their work, and pride in their creativity, pride in their art.
I've seen more examples of the type of man I want to become on YouTube than anywhere else. I haven't had a lot of male role models in my life that I could look to teach myself how to grow those parts of me, or how to I don't know, how to treat people around me. I social like roles are something I've spent my entire life being very fascinated by, and having to learn, having to teach myself instead of understanding inherently. I'm fascinated by people. I'm fascinated by human beings. I'm fascinated by relationships, of all types. Excuse me. Oh, I didn't burp. I'm fascinated by what makes a human a human. I'm fascinated by the different ways that we show love to people in our lives. And not just the romantic type, but the familial type, the friend type, even the type of love between two people who work together and want to respect each other's work, right? There is a type of love when you see certain creators working together, and how they treat each other, how they respect each other. One of the reasons I love improv is because with good improv, you can see how much the members enjoy each other's work so much that they spin it into their own words, right? Like that's what improv is, because you have to take something and you have to build off of it, and so you have to build off each other. However many people are there, you have to build off of what they say, and you can just see the love and pride that certain people have when they do that with each other. You can hear their respect for each other. You can hear their love for each other, and how they work together, and how they engage in that back and forth. And that's something that I really love to see. And a lot of most of the creators that I watch and have followed for a long time are men, and they have, exhibited a type of masculinity that I want to embody, and certain ones that I respect so deeply, that has become a core foundation of how I treat my channel, of how I engage with my own creation. How I engage with the camera. How I engage with my words, my ways of speech. It probably doesn't seem like it, but to me it is very difficult. Social, interacting with people is very difficult. Knowing how to behave and how to carry myself, and how to hold my face, how to hold my body, how to engage in conversation, in a way that reflects identity, right? This is really hard to explain. I feel like sometimes I can't understand my own. This is not the right way to say it. I feel like sometimes I need to hear it from someone else's mouth before I can understand it. Sometimes I need to see the emotion on someone else before I can feel it. This is not the right way to say this. I'm a lot more lost than people realize. I'm a lot more confused about very fucking basic aspects of our world than people realize. I don't know what's going on at any point in time, at all. Um, and some of that is because I'm trans and because I've had to be a woman my whole life without understanding it inherently. You know, men make more sense to me. Interacting with men makes more sense to me. Interacting with boys when I was younger made more sense to me. The social dynamics between boys, men makes more sense to me. I feel very lost when I'm trying to be a woman, when I'm trying to. But I've also been playing that role my entire life. I've been, you know, trying to fit myself in that box for most of my life. And it feels way more comfortable when I can express myself masculinely, when I can engage with my masculinity. I feel a lot more comfortable. I feel a lot more at ease. I feel a lot more secure in myself. But I've needed to even know how to do that, to even know how to even be able to start to try to engage with myself masculinely. I had to have examples to look to. I'm not saying this in the best way, and it's really upsetting me. I could be saying this better, and I can't figure out the words. By all accounts, I should be dead. By all accounts, I should be dead. For so many reasons. A lot of which you can see on my channel if you look back on videos. I should be dead. And the only reason I'm not is because of the men I admire in my life. Because they taught me what to do when I felt like there was nowhere to go. And you know, I'm not out of the woods of what I'm dealing with yet. I'm not out of the woods. And I'm scared because the choices I have made and the paths that I've chosen to take. I don't know where they go because you never know in life. I do know that my parents do not agree with me taking testosterone, and I know that is often a reason for parents to not want to be in their child's life anymore. I don't know if that's going to happen to me. I don't know. But it's a fear I have, and it's not a totally unrealistic fear. It's something I've talked with my parents a little bit about, and not, you know. For now, my parents have said that they will always love me no matter what, even though they vehemently disagree with me transitioning. They have said that they will love me anyways, and I want to trust that, and I have a hard time trusting. I have a hard time trusting anything. Despite the way I talk sometimes on here, I do love my parents. because in a lot of ways they've been there for me, and the ways that they haven't been there for me has largely been limited by their own understanding of the world and understanding of my personal needs. It's not black and white. It's not black and white. They have been there for me in ways that other people haven't been, My family has always been there for me in the ways that they could. And sometimes those ways weren't enough, but also sometimes that's not their fault. They haven't been there for me enough. And also, there are very genuine barriers to that I do believe need to be taken into consideration. I don't know. I'm scared. I'm scared. I'm scared. And I'm not going to be able to sing the way I used to. But what if I like it more, Because a lot of the music I like to sing have male vocalists that I try to copy, with my voice. I try to emulate their voice. So what if my voice starts sounding more masculine and that feels better, At the end of the day, I have to be comfortable with the fact that if this is a mistake, this is the mistake I'm going to make. That my trans identity is important enough to me that I'm going to risk this being a mistake, that I'm going to risk this being the wrong choice for me. And what's scary is that maybe I'm just petty because I think the scariest part to me right now is hearing the "I told you so" from the people in my life who don't want me to be trans. Yeah, I won't lie. That's a part of it. That's a part of it. Having to fight for my identity so long. Because sometimes I have fought for an identity that wasn't good for me. When I first started dating my partners, a lot of the reason I clung to that relationship in the beginning, when I probably should have recognized that it wasn't good for me, was because I needed to be queer. I was going crazy in the closet. The closet was killing me. And it's not that I was using my partners to be queer. Like, I loved them. I did love them, and I do still love them. And the 5 years I was with them is very, very fucking important to me. It really is. Really fucking important to me. And also, I know that part of the reason I stayed in it longer than was healthy for me was because of the fearing the "I told you so," which is embarrassing. That's embarrassing that was such a huge part of it, but I felt like my identity, my queer identity, was tied to that relationship. I felt like giving up on that relationship was giving up on my queerness. And that wasn't the only reason. It wasn't just about my identity. This is a factor, right? The majority of it was I loved them and wanted to be part of their family. Wanted them to be my family. I love them very dearly. And also, I also know that this is more towards the beginning of it, that it was, I did cling to it so hard because it felt like abandoning the relationship would be abandoning my identity. And I guess that's what I'm kind of afraid of now, is am I clinging... I don't want to run towards something because I'm running away from something. I think if you're running away from something, you're way more likely to go in the wrong direction than if you're running towards something. Does that make sense? I hope it does. Because if transitioning is running away from the body I have, it's more likely to be the wrong decision. But if it's running towards a body I want, towards an identity I want, it's more likely to be the right decision. And examining which one of those it is inside me is difficult. Because it is a little bit of both. But I have had times in my life where I've been trying so hard to run away from something that I ran towards something that wasn't good for me. That has happened a lot in my life. And I can't determine anymore. I can't determine anymore if I'm doing that or not. And I need to rely on the voices that I trust. Because there are so few voices I trust right now. There are so few voices I trust. Because most of the voices in my personal life have told me that I'm a monster. Have told me that I'm broken. Have told me that I'm not whole without what they think will fix me. And I'm not God. I'm not. I can't be God. I can't know everything. I can't have full control and full power. I can't save the entire fucking world by myself. God, that's such fucking pompous language. I hate it. The fact that I think I'm even capable of that. I do have an ego problem. I have a God complex, actually. I'm just afraid I'm listening to the wrong voice because so many times in my life I have listened to the wrong voice and so firmly believed it was the right one. And all I know is that there is right now in my life, there is at least one voice that I trust no matter what. Right now, there is at least one voice that I trust completely and fully. And I'm terrified that my judgment is wrong again. Because it's starting to feel like my judgment is always wrong. But it's something I have to risk because that is the voice that has told me not directly, but that is the voice that has told me that I'm worth something. It is the voice that has told me that I deserve to be cared for, and I deserve to be treated well, and I deserve to care about myself, and I deserve to care about what I make, and I deserve to care about my dreams and my aspirations, to care about my creativity. And I don't want to live in a world where I can't trust that voice. I just don't want to. So anyway, now that I sound like a real fucking psychopath. Anyway. I'm scared, as always, because I have never stepped this far out of my comfort zone in my life. I have never stepped out of my comfort zone and kept walking like I have the past few years. I've never chosen myself this many times. I've never been brave enough to risk losing everything I know. And so, of course, it's scary. Of course, it's scary. And right now, the only thing I know is that I'm really excited next week to take my next dose of testosterone.